I've PDF anyway. I downloaded it because I knew the Wi-Fi wasn't great. So, just as we were saying, we have a natural weight, right? And our natural weight, again, if I look at this person who's 10 stone, their weight may go down to 9, 10, they might go up to 10, 3. You know, there may be fluctuations, but on the main, it will stay in and around that weight, right? That's where it'll sit comfortably. So regardless of whether you overfeed it or obviously take food away from it, it's going to balance out at that. And there's some research to say that it can take up to 3 months, 6 months, almost a year for your body to adapt to a new weight. And for me personally, the best way to do that, no worries, Carl, the best way to do that is, what are the maintenance strategies? Like, if you have to have a high level of maintenance, if you have to train 6 days a week to maintain your weight, like, the likelihood is you're going to fail. Because if you get sick or you can't train or you get injured, you usually see those people who rely on exercise as a way to mitigate their weight gain will tend to put that on very, very quickly. So we want to get to a point where we go 3 days a week is good enough, right? When I want to put my foot on the gas, I do 4 or 5. As Colleen likes to wind me up when she sees me in training, when you go on holiday. Because that's the only time apparently I train. We were talking about this earlier. But I know you'll see me more because I know, right, I've got something coming up. I need to get my head down. But most of the other times, it's maintenance workouts. I'm trying to get stronger. I'm doing 2 or 3 days a week. I'm still playing football. When I give that up, I'll maybe go on to 3 or 4. The only time that becomes a wee bit of an issue is if you actually love exercise, and say, look at Brendy, and you want to go to the gym every day. But there's also an element of saying, you know, you build and you recover outside of the gym. And just managing those sort of strategies. So, there's a myriad of reasons why people have different set points and why we don't always weigh the same. And here's some of the reasons why. Your height. So obviously taller people have more mass, so they can effectively have a higher set point and a higher weight. People who are genetically blessed, you know, who can just eat whatever they want and still be in great shape. And we hate those people, right? Lenny's one of those people. Your biological sex, males, again, because we have testicles, we tend to have more testosterone. It makes it easier for us to maintain more lean muscle mass, which again can give us an advantage. And then again, where we hold, based on your sex, if you're a female, you can hold a lot of your weight around your womb, around your hips, your legs. For other girls, it could be behind the back of the arms. And again, it's a reproductive thing as well. It's also a defense mechanism. And then obviously our habits. So, you know, I always talk about this. We live in a very fast-paced world where everything is really accessible and everything is really quick. And we're always stressed. Like, we're always drinking coffee, we're always drinking energy drinks, we're always on the go, we've always got something to do. Work is always stressful, we'll have to do this. So we're constantly looking pick-me-ups, we're constantly looking things that are going to get us there quicker. So obviously our lifestyle choices are going to affect what way we do those things. If we hang about with people who love going out and partying every weekend, the likelihood is you're going to go out and party every weekend. The same with takeaways or junk food. And that's not to say that you can't do those things, of course you can. But it's putting those boundaries in place and saying, hey, listen, for the next period of time, this is what I'm working on, this is what I want to focus on because I want to improve myself, okay? Now, this concept of reverse dieting, right? In its simplest terms, it's basically dieting out of your dieting, right? Or dieting out of your diet. The analogy I would give is, imagine you give up smoking. You go to give up smoking, you start taking the patches, you start taking the chewing gum, you're weaning yourself off. Right? And this is a concept that we need to focus on. So if you look at the girl here, in April 2015, she's on 1,200 calories. Almost a year later, she's on 2,000 calories. Looks just as lean, if not leaner, eating more food. How does that happen? Right? I can show you probably 10 other examples. Right? It happens because where she was there, she slowly started to wean herself off her diet. She maintained, like, when I talk about weaning yourself off your diet, there's also an element of weaning yourself off training, right? And what I mean by that is, if I had someone who was there where this girl is in April, and she is training, 6 days a week, and she's eating 1,250 calories, and I'm assuming she's maybe doing some cardio. Maybe she's doing, say, an hour and a half of cardio a week. So in those 6 days, maybe 30 minutes a day. Okay, everyone okay with that? What I'm going to do is we're going to pick one of these and say, right, what are we going to increase or decrease? Right? So if I do cardio, I'll say, listen, let's drop that down to 30 minutes a week. But none of these change. Right? These don't change because we want to know, does this make a difference? And if it's for a female, we want to make sure it doesn't make a difference hormonally as well. Now, this wouldn't be my first protocol. The first thing is, I love food. I want to give you more food, right? So I might say, right, let's go up to 1,400 calories or so, for example, right? We want to see how that gets on. Your energy's going to be better, you're going to feel better, but you're still training, so you're making use of those calories. And then what we can do is we can put the food up more, or we can say, listen, let's strip that training back a wee bit. Let's take a wee bit of, take a session off you, and then you go, oh my God, because I'm only doing 5 sessions, I feel stronger across those 5 sessions. I'm now eating more food, I feel great. How's your weight? Hasn't changed. Like, my weight hasn't went up. Amazing. What do we do now? We can play with the food, we can take another session away, we can reduce the cardio. So we've got these different tools that we're playing with. Now, it obviously means it can take longer. The opposite, or not say the opposite, but something that's similar to reverse dieting is called a recovery diet. And a recovery diet basically means that what I would do is, if this girl was at 1,250 and her maintenance was 2,000, I could jump from here to 2,000 straight away. Right? And technically, because that's her maintenance, she will not put on body fat, she will put on water weight. Right? But people can't really distinguish the difference between water weight and body fat, so I like to do it a slower way, so that we go, get our results, lock them in. How do we get back to the safety net so we can take a bit of a breather, because nobody wants to die for 9 months or 12 months of the year. Get in, get out, get 6, 10 pound off, or add a little bit of muscle mass, or put some bulk on, or whatever it may be. And then we want to get out of there and go, right, let's take a break. And we're taking a break as in, like, we're still exercising, we're still doing those maintenance tasks like movement and eating a certain way, but we're just not as stringent, okay? So we basically are trying to diet outside the diet, and it's the secret you need to keep weight loss off forever. So the focus needs to be on this. We look at the 3 stages. We have the fat loss, the body composition, we have the strength phase, we have the body for life phase. We need to understand, when are we cutting? When are we going, for this period of time, I have minimal things on, I'm willing to give a lot of focus, a lot of dedication to this, and I can go and do it, right? Then there's going to be periods of that maintenance, that strength, where you're still training, you're just not as strict on the diet. Give yourself a breather, cut yourself some slack, enjoy it, right? And then there might be periods where you're going, I want to build muscle, I want to eat more calories because I want stronger legs, I want to, you know, build better arms, whatever it may be. And it's basically a cyclical pattern of these things, right? Don't take this as a full year, because I would want people just to be able to completely switch off from training and switch off from eating a certain way and being a robot. But it's having that peace of mind to go, my goal is to lose weight, keep my muscle, so that I can have more calories, okay? In my way. Oh, sorry. So the second one there is build muscle. So obviously you might have a period here. So I'm looking at maybe use 2 guys where you might go, right, I'm going to increase my calories. I want to make sure I'm getting stronger every week. I want to put on muscle mass, not necessarily all body fat. And then there might be a period where you go, you need to give your body a break from eating that amount. Okay, and again, I talk about this a lot. Why does weight regain happen? Right? People go, oh, my metabolism slowed down. Maybe my body wants to get back to that previous weight. But usually about 9 times out of 10, the reason why people end up relapsing back to their pre-weight, if not higher, is that they lose adherence. They stop following the plan as strict as they did at the start. And I'll tell you this from personal experience. I've weighed and measured food a lot over the years. And I remember going, I know what a 200-gram steak looks like. I know what 140-gram chicken breast looks like. And then when I went back, I was like, fuck, I was way off. Do you know what I mean? But it has to, you almost need to go to yourself, park the ego, let's get back down to the nuts and bolts of what I need to do. And then sometimes it can go, oh fuck, right, I was probably a little bit off with that. But basically, it's not that we have a slow metabolism, is that the longer you diet, and the research is saying this, the longer you diet, the more bored you get of it, and the shitter your results are. So don't diet long term. Do it really short term. Give it your all for 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. Because I think personally, you have to have a life as well. And then just factor in that contingency plan. If you were to say to someone, in a year, if you could do 12 weeks of hard training, hard dieting, right, twice a year, that's 6 months. Rather than what happens with people is they do 6 weeks, they fall off for 4 or 5 months, do another 6 weeks. So they maybe only do 3 months of training in a whole year, if they're lucky. Where 6 months of really dedicated could push you on, or do it in small incremental blocks. Excuse me. And again, obviously, we want to address our habits, our behaviors. Like, there's no point us talking about building new things if we don't address what's holding us back. And what's generally holding us back, and this is just an example, not everybody's the same as this, but the weekends are usually the biggest killers for most people, right? We have good routine, good structure throughout the week, and then what comes the weekend is we lie in a little bit longer, we feel entitled to a degree where we go, I don't want to cook, I've cooked all week, I've done this, I'll get myself a wee takeaway, Chinese, I'll have a wee drink, I'll do this. And again, you're all within your rights to do that, but if your goal is to do a certain thing, then like that would be the focus. Like I was speaking to a girl that I coach down south, and she's trying to lose weight because she wants to put herself in a better position to have a baby. Right? She had a miscarriage before, and she just sort of struggled there to get her head back in. I think she was sick, and then she was trying to get herself back into training. And sometimes you just need to remind people why they started. Because if that is the priority, if you truly want that, then your values need to align with that. It doesn't mean that you have to be psycho. If it's just it's going to be a byproduct of me getting healthier, yes. But if it's not like, this is what I want, like I want this now, your thought process and your actions are completely different to, yeah, I'm going to get there. Do you know what I mean? So just understanding why we're falling down. And again, when I put up that I wanted to do the hike on the 31st of March, I just looked at the end of the month, someone was like, oh, it's Easter Sunday. And I went, oh, brilliant. I'm sure everybody else is like, oh, shit. I'm like, I can't wait to go out because I'll come home and I'll eat the 2 Easter eggs that I have, and I will feel guilty or guilt-free because I've went out and I've moved on the weekend and I haven't just lay about because I know I'm going to be off on Easter Monday. Do you know what I mean? So that's all it is for me. It's just balance, is understanding. Do you know what? I have a long weekend here. So I'm going to work. I'm going to go in and do sweat this week, and I'm going to do high rocks, and I'm going to do my workouts because I'm just going to mitigate the damage I'm going to do it this weekend here. Okay? So just understand those behaviors and some of the basic things that what I can tell you from every challenge that we do internally. When you all get a rocket up your arse and you're like, oh, yes, summer shred, going to do it, Christmas shred, I'm going to do it. The best results that come from yous who've been long-term clients is when you just do the really simple things. Drink more water, do more steps, because you're already training hard. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're already doing that, and sometimes when you go, I'm just putting this all together and I'm aligning it, and then next minute they're like, oh, I'm 4 pound down, I'm 6 pound. Oh, what were you doing? Nothing, I'm still training, I'm eating a wee bit better, go ahead. I'm just drinking more water. Okay, so 80% of your diet coming from whole, single ingredient foods. Be aware of discretionary calories, right? This is just a very simplified approach. There is calories in literally everything. The main instigators tends to be liquid-based calories, right? Coffee probably being the main one. If you're having a cappuccino, a frappe, whatever it is, they could be loaded with calories, cream, whatever it is. Hot chocolate's a big thing. Make each meal high protein. And how we do that is we look at the protein sources, and we also need to understand culturally. Eating meat for breakfast, unless it's a fry-up, is almost like it's not what we're born with. We'd usually have a cereal, we'd usually have something that's carb-based. So having something like a protein shake, and I'll talk a little bit about supplements here, can be important. Okay, it's just handy, right? Bulk up your meals with lots of plants, so basically vegetables. If you don't eat vegetables, what I would recommend is a Super Greens supplement, right? Which basically has all your vitamins, minerals, everything else. Because what you take a multivitamin to cover you in case you're missing stuff in your diet, yeah? The Super Greens is very much the same. So if you're missing out on fiber in your food, if you're missing out on certain vitamins or minerals, or you want to reduce the inflammation that's in your body, you're taking a lot more greens. It's obviously going to be a lot healthier for you. In turn, it's going to help with managing chronic fatigue, better gut health, it's going to help with energy, mood. So stuff like that is just really, really simple. For about a year there non-stop, I've taken a probiotic every day, vitamin D, and omega-3. And I've genuinely noticed the difference. I really have. Just by going simple things every single day. Just to make sure that I'm getting all the nutrients, vitamins, minerals that I need. Avoiding those liquid calories. Again, you look at a pint. There's a reason why the likes of Coors Light, Corona, they're lower in calories than what a pint of Guinness or whatever it would be. Not that a pint of Guinness is bad, but pick your meal time and frequency. This is where it needs to be individualized to you, and sleep is a massive proponent to this. Okay, and all we're really doing is we're doing this consistently for a period of time. And for people who lose weight and keep it off, they tend to eat lower calorie foods. So they're eating high protein foods, they're eating lots of vegetables, they get a good amount of sleep. If you have kids, people will tell you that doesn't happen. They consume high protein. So I always use a protein continuum, which I'll talk about here, where basically what they found is if you eat on the higher end of protein, you're more likely to be leaner and have lower body fat, unless you've got renal issues. You need to be careful, okay? Consuming high fiber. So again, fiber is what bulks out your food. It helps fill you up, because I'm a massive snacker. Like, I love eating, so I need to fill my foods up with lower calorie, nutrient dense foods. And then having flexible control versus rigid. And what that might mean is you might follow a plan, but we might have contingency. So worst case scenario, if you're out, or where do you work? Oh, I work in this place. Has it got a canteen? Yes. Well, what's the menu? And you sort of plan ahead. Or, you know, I'm traveling today. Okay, can we plan out somewhere where you can stop for food? You know, rather than just being reactive, we're being proactive. Consuming lower glycemic food. Not that insulin is a killer, but if we have people who suffer from PCOS, endometriosis, perimenopausal, we want to manage those blood sugars, because it can have a massive effect on our body composition, okay? Because we become a little bit more insulin resistant. Limit our snacking, and what way we can do that is maybe we fast slightly in the morning, we push our meals closer together, and we have bigger meals. And this is the hardest one. Don't eat in response to stress or emotions. Really difficult, because obviously when we're stressed, food is a mood elevator. It makes us feel good. That's why you see Bridget Jones's Diary and different things where they're eating ice cream.
So is there another way to say comforting?
Yeah, comforting, 100%. But then also, not just our culture, but our culture is very set around alcohol and food for celebrations. Someone's wedding, someone's birthday, someone gets a job promotion. We're always celebrating with food and alcohol. Okay, and again, not to say that you can't do that. We just then need to plan ahead. And again, it's not a choice for some people. We highly recommend seeing a specialist. So if you are suffering from an eating disorder or issues that you have with food that is beyond the scope, then obviously speaking to an expert is that. And having emotional intelligence and mindfulness, easier said than done. I always talk about the time I went to a nutrition seminar and the guy says, put up your hand if you haven't eaten this morning. This is about 10:30. I put my hand up because I usually fasted till about 12. So he came over to me and he handed me a biscuit. And he says, I want you to smell that biscuit. Right, I smelled it. And he was like, you want the biscuit? I said, I don't want the biscuit. He said, you want the biscuit? I said, I don't. So this went on for about a minute. He says, there's two things you can't control, your hunger and your salvation. So when you smelled that, your brain has anticipated, oh, I'm getting food. And so your mouth naturally salivates. Right? So it's when, if I got every one of you to close your eyes now and think of your favorite meal, your mouth would start salivating because you're thinking about it. Has anyone ever heard of Pavlov's dog theory? Yeah, so the analogy, well, CPT have done stuff, was that he fed the dogs every night at 7 o'clock and he rung a bell. And after the second, I think it was the first or second week, then what he used to do is to ring the bell, but he wouldn't bring any food. And the dogs would all be, because they were eating at the same time, would have that anticipation of, I'm eating at this time. And over the years, I've called humans dogs, because like sometimes our habits are very much similar. If you're used to eating breakfast at a certain time, lunch at a certain time, when you're an hour past that, your hunger and your appetite starts going crazy, okay? And again, you don't have to be perfect, you just need to be better, okay? A little bit better is going to be what we're looking for. So obviously for me, the perfect diet would have body composition, health, and performance. It would be in here, but sometimes you need to sacrifice a little bit to maybe you're going, I'm performing and trying to lose weight, or I've got good health and good performance, but my body composition isn't naturally getting there just yet. And it's always a constant battle. So I don't know if anybody in here has ever done, like, say you really focus on, you want to get your squat like the best it's ever been, and you do so much squatting, and then you go and do a bench press and your bench press is shit again. And then you're like, right, I need to get my bench press up, and because you focus on your bench press, then your squat drops a bit. It's like that never-ending juggle. And again, understand that there is a level of importance. And what I mean by that is everybody's at different stages and everybody needs to focus on certain different things, right? So for example, when we look at the energy equation, we want to look at how much calories you need, right? How much calories do you need to eat to survive? How much do you need to lose weight? How much do you need to build muscle? Then I'll be able to tell you how much protein that you should be eating, then how much carbohydrates, and then how much fats. And again, that will all come into the context of, do you like fats? Do you prefer carbs? Do you prefer fats over carbs? Maybe you have endometriosis, PCOS, maybe you struggle with certain things, maybe you have epilepsy. Then we may go, okay, I want you to have a higher fat, lower carb diet. This is why we're doing it. So this will all come in, and then the main thing is obviously being able to adhere to it, okay? This is really fucking hard, right? I had a girl who had colitis, right? She knew what she could eat and what she couldn't eat. She knew if she ate certain foods, her stomach would be diarrhea, like bad, crawled over in pain. First month, loses a stone, flying, everything's great. Goes on a weekend trip with her partner and her friends to Krakow, drinks alcohol, eats bread, all the things she shouldn't be, because she knows they don't agree with her. And I couldn't get my head around it. But slowly over the years, and even just speaking with her, she also has to live. And you're also under the social constructs and pressures of what everybody else does as well. So you need to have that ability to go, I can't have that, I can't have that. Now it's a little bit different now. You can go and get gluten-free stuff. You can go and get certain things that can help you to adhere to that. But understanding where these fall for you is important. We talk about this a lot of times. We talk about if we eat too much, we put on weight. And I always love this slide. If you have an unhealthy lifestyle, and an unhealthy lifestyle is somebody who doesn't exercise, right? So they've no way to regulate their appetite, and they've no way of building a margin to eat more calories, right? And if you get not enough sleep or shit amount of sleep, you're more impulsive with your food, you're more driven to eating more higher calorie, sweet tasting foods because they're more pick-me-ups, okay? And your drive to pleasure eat is massive. Now you put that unhealthy person, say Mary, into a modern day world where there's cakes, buns, maybe you're in the office, maybe people are ordering in takeout, right? You've got processed foods, you've got marketing that's slapping you up the face, you're watching TV and it's like, hey, order KFC, Uber Eats, you know, whatever it is. And then we start eating all those processed food. We're getting less satiety because the quality of food isn't great. We're now eating not only for non-hunger based, so non-hunger based eating basically means we're eating because the food tastes good. You know, if you turn around and go, like I just had a 3-course dinner there, or a 2-course dinner and stuffed, have a wee dessert, all right, well, go ahead. You're eating it because it tastes good, right? And again, I do it. But all that stuff can lead to us to overeat and then obviously putting on weight. But all these things can influence it. Our age, our stress, inflammation within our body, our environment, the people that we're around. Do we actually have an interest in wanting to lose weight or keep our health good? Our socioeconomic status, our thought processes around food, emotional eating is a big one. And I always talk about this from Dave Brailsford, and it comes in the book Atomic Habits. If you've all read it, you should. If you don't have a copy already. But the concept of marginal gains, just being 1% better, and the whole concept behind what he did when he moved to GB cycling was to look at everything that they can improve. So for example, and I know it sounds really stupid, a 1% method in our industry would be, Roisin, all I want you to do is drink 1 extra glass of water a day. I want it to be so simple that she's going like, is that it? Like almost laughing at me to go, is that all you want me to do? And then see, once you nail that and it becomes a routine, because that's what happened with me. I got out of the way of taking my supplements and then I just went first thing in the morning, every morning, the first thing I do is I put water and supplements in my body. That's what I do. And then I just get into a habit and it happened every single day and then we just built upon it, okay? So that 1%, and I asked you to do that on the Christmas shred. You already train 3, 4, 5 days a week, but where could you push yourself a wee bit harder? Could it be in the weights that you lift? Could it be in, maybe you're doing a wee bit more recovery work, maybe you're doing some stretching. Laurie's doing amazing stuff with the yoga. You know, stuff that is contributing to you getting better, but it's also good for you. Okay, so that 1% method is super important. And if you don't have a plan, you don't know where you're going, how can you measure whether you're successful or not? You can't, right? So if like Neve, that girl we spoke about earlier, who was doing everything right, she was checking in with me, she was training her ass off, she didn't see the result, right? And then a week later things fall into place because we were like, all the things you're doing is getting you to where you need to go. And trust me, this is going to happen. Because if you're doing all the things that we're talking about, you're going to be successful. So having that plan, and then it's up to you to choose your heart, right? I don't force this on people. Like calories is probably the most efficient way to track someone's progress because it's data. The same way if I say, right, you have £2,000 to spend every day, we'll track your spend. Have you overspent? Have you underspent? Like it's really simple. But the problem is you're dealing with human beings. You're dealing with emotions. Maybe you've had a shit day and maybe you want to eat the cake. Fucking eat the cake, enjoy it, right? Deal with that shit, okay? But in your path, it could be starting with one thing. I may get somebody who comes in here and they may go, PJ, listen, I have a lot on. I just want to get in and start exercising. I don't want to look at food. I just want to get training and get moving. Or they may go, I'm going to focus on my food and then I'll start adding exercise in. Or you can get to that point where you track your food, you track your macros, which again is another extreme, but you need to choose that because I've said to people, you know, I say this to the students all the time, what's the first thing you would ask a new client? Oh, I want you to track your food. And then the client comes in and they've misrepresented their food because they didn't know how to track it because you haven't taught them. They're going, fuck, I forgot to do that because like I had a million things on. You're now adding more stress to that person's plate, literally. And they're like, that's doing my head, I don't want to track. And then you need to deal with how do I get that person results as well in the meantime. And like we were talking about with the protein scale, if you're on the lower end of this protein scale, you're more likely to have a moderate to high body fat percentage. you're more likely to not have an interest in building muscle mass or preserving your muscle mass. Okay? Whereas if you're on the higher end of the recommended intake, you're more likely to have a lower body fat and a goal to gain or preserve fat-free mass. Okay?
See, protein, is there a replacement for protein if you can't take protein?
There's,
I can take some protein, but not
yeah,
as much as what.
yeah, because you have a pre-existing condition. Yeah. So
that's why my body mass is so.
yeah, and listen, that is a massive factor. So then what we need to look at is your calories and your carbs. So keeping them consistent. So basically what the emphasis is if you have enough carbs, right, your body doesn't need as much protein, right?
I thought carbs were I don't
Bad.
say they're bad. I do take carbs, but I thought protein was the end thing. You have to eat protein, and you don't lose weight unless you have protein.
This is harped on by everybody, and yes, it's 100% important.
But a calorie deficit is what you have to be.
Exactly. So if I had someone who was maybe you're doing a triathlon, Betty, right? We'll get you there, right? And because that is a, you know, what do you call it? I just want to say a sport, but it's basically an event. It's more energy demanding, so it's more carbohydrate demanding. So the majority of the foods I'd be giving you, 70, 60% of that's going to be carbs, right? But the more carbs you have, the less need your body has for protein, right? Yes, you do need a certain amount of protein to build muscle, maintain your mass, but when you've got a good amount of carbohydrates, your body goes, I don't need to tap into any of these because I've got enough energy, okay? So just to give you a bit of a physiology lesson, whenever you eat foods, if you eat protein, carbs and fats, the first thing that's digested and assimilated by the body is carbohydrates because your body wants the energy first. Then it's fats, because fats again provide an energy and it can be stored. And the last thing to be digested and utilized is proteins. But protein is super important. It helps you feel fuller. It preserves your muscle mass. If you have more muscle, it means you can eat more food. Because the more muscle you have, the more food you need to sustain that. And that's why we talk about building muscle and not necessarily looking like Mary here. Because you can starve yourself, but then your maintenance calories are 1,200. Whereas if you eat and build muscle, your maintenance calories might be 1,800. Okay, and you might see these influencers online who are like stick thin and they're eating 3,000 calories a day, and they're like, how are they doing that? How they're doing it is they've lost the weight, they've reverse dieted, they've got leaner, and they've done that process where as they increase their calories, they've built muscle, and now their metabolic rate has increased. So if you all remember the InBody, do you ever look at the BMR on it? Yeah, your basal metabolic rate. So what it'll tell you is when you've lost body fat or what's happened, it'll tell you your metabolism has increased. So to give you an example, I'll get this up here. What? Squeak, squeak. Oh, it's taking ages. Well, that's it. But you know, it'll say those sort of things, okay? And sleep. If you're not getting enough sleep, and this is a study that was done on nurses. So nurses who slept 6 or fewer hours per night gained significantly more weight over the course of the study. So if they had less than 6 hours of sleep, the average weight gain for that nurse was 2.5 pounds, so a kilo, just from sleep. And I would tell you that if I do a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'll have 6 hours. When I have a lie-in and get up on the Friday morning, I could be a kilo down just from those extra bit of sleep. And it's great. For those who got 6 hours, the average was 1.6 pounds, and those who had 7 hours or more, their weight remained the same. They had baseline. Okay. I know easier said than done getting sleep, right? But it's looking at different things from routines. Every self-help, every fitness guru, every lifestyle coach, and this was a new one, I met a girl in London, she was a master intuitive.
Love it.
Yeah, so I'm thinking there's levels, there's, you know, what do you call it, life coach, psychic, master intuitive, right? But everyone will tell you need to look after your body. Like, you need to sleep, you need to do these, you need to do these things. So it has a massive effect on our health. And again, on this one, people who slept for 5.5 hours lost, on average, 55% less body fat. So if you're exercising, you're pushing yourself, and the same person's doing the same amount of training, and you get less sleep and they get more sleep, they're more likely to lose 55% more in terms of their weight and body fat, and you're less likely to lose. And you're more likely to lose more muscle mass because you're not getting enough sleep to recover. And if you are getting enough sleep and recovery, you're more likely to build that muscle mass quicker, okay? Like, there used to be a supplement you took before you went to bed called, what was it? It was a protein, casein protein, and it was a slow release protein, and all the bodybuilders used to take it because they would drip feed their muscles while they slept. But what happened is your body is still digesting food throughout the middle of the night, where what we want to happen is we want to get a good night's sleep, let our body clear everything out, take a bit of a break, and then worry about, you know, what toil and stress we're going to put on it the next day, okay? And some things, some essential supplements, these are things that I always recommend for what I would call base supplements. Having a whey protein or a beef protein or something like that there, because it's just handy, it's quick, it's low in calories, right? So it's about 100 odd calories for a protein shake. The average cost per serving will be about 60 to 80p. Next door, to get the same amount of protein, to buy a small packet of chicken, it's $1.25. Okay, so it sounds more expensive than the thing. Omega-3s for anti-inflammatory, for joints, for cognitive function, for blood glucose health, and vitamin D in terms of muscle mass, bone density, and obviously absorbing calcium and so forth, which is so important. And these are usually the recommended doses that we have. If you're interested in any of them, let me know. I'll tell you where the best place to get them. And then obviously we look at recovery, right? So I have a recovery element and then performance. When we're looking at recovery, you're looking at stuff like magnesium, and you're looking at different things. Ashwagandha is a big, massive one. I don't know if any of you have taken that or tried that. It's known as an adaptogen herb, an anti-anxiety, stress relieving compound. So you'd usually take that before you go to bed. There's nice supplements that have magnesium and ashwagandha, and there's different things like L-theanine and stuff. They're all just basically ways to try and get your nervous system to just relax, so you can go into a more peaceful sleep rather than taking something like a sleeping tablet, okay? And then obviously when we look at performance, we're looking at how can we be stronger, how can we build more muscle. We're looking at stuff like creatine, and we're looking at caffeine, coffee. Like, two of the most notoriously research things that say that's going to improve your performance, that's going to improve your speed, that's going to improve your power. Now, the only thing I will say is with caffeine, it has a half-life of 6 to 8 hours. So if you have a cup of coffee, say at 6 o'clock, it would still be in your system at 12, it's going to affect your sleep, which then is going to lead you to wake up tired the next day, you want another coffee, and then the cycle sort of delivers. So having those times spaced out, your caffeine sensitivity is diminished after 7 to 10 days, which basically means you start off, you don't drink coffee. Like now, I haven't drunk coffee in a long while. I had one there in Derry a couple of months ago. I was buzzing. Like, I was like, whoa. So after about 2 weeks, if I had one every day, then I would probably need 2 to get the same effect. So that tends to happen with it, okay? And then again, just to summarize all that, weight loss effects and is achieved by a number of people. Keeping it off is the most difficult part. Most people add back the majority of their weight if they lose it more over time. And basically what it's saying is a lot of people, about 80% of people, can keep the weight off in the first year. That diminishes down to about 60% in the second year, and it's about 20% in the third year. So the likelihood is if you can keep that weight off for 3 years, the likelihood is it's gone, okay?
Is there an age related? Is it age related?
Age will have an effect. Health-related conditions will have an effect on it, but yeah. So metabolic adaptation to weight loss makes maintenance of lost weight even more difficult, and then it's more important to have a post-diet plan, okay? So, if we talk about this, perimenopause diabetes, you want to look at body composition and weight loss. So when we're looking at this, what we were talking about there, we're managing your blood sugar levels. The problem we have with menopause, right? And again, when I done this menopause talk, I said, hey, listen, I'm not a female, never been through a menstrual cycle. I don't know what it's like. I'm only presenting information. The problem we have with this is everybody has varying degrees of the symptoms, right? There's nobody, no doctor that any talk I've been to or any research I've done it, nobody has almost been super consistent in saying this is what you should do, apart from exercise, because obviously osteoporosis and sarcopenia has a massive contributor to that. Magnesium is usually a supplement, it's always recommended in there. Yes, no worries, Bets. But the main thing is managing your blood sugar levels. So I would look at a supplement called myo-inositol. I can't even spell that right. I can send it on to you. And omegas to try and manage that. So we're trying to find ways to manage your blood sugar and keep your insulin levels low. Okay, not that that's for most people that shouldn't be an issue, but it's a good way to maintain your health. I mean, if you do that, this is less likely to happen. Because for anybody who's familiar, diabetes comes from a concept called insulin resistance, where your body is resistant to taking on new food because you've basically abused it that much, if that makes sense. And that's what type 2 diabetics do. You basically put in food, it gets into the bloodstream, and then your body produces this thing called insulin. Insulin gathers this all up and puts it into cells. But say this is my muscle cell, my bicep, and say, because I'm not the healthiest, the cell isn't really in a great position, it won't allow me to put it in there. So then where's the other storage? Fat cells. So if I can't put it into where I want it to go, it's going to go in, and then again we're going to end up more fat cells. When the fat cell gets so big, it splits and forms another fat cell. That's what happens. And then obviously when we lose weight, it shrinks and so forth. So if we can nail that and manage your blood sugars, and a very simple way to do that, Roisin, is protein, carbs and fats at every meal. Right, so see your main meal, see, rather than going, if you have protein in with the carbs, it minimizes the blood sugar spike. If we have maybe some omega-3s with it, or we have some of the inositol stuff, and then obviously if you can reduce your body fat, that's obviously going to help as well. Stress, sickness, your appetite's going to come back.
Like I ate really well Friday night and Saturday night, but
Yeah.
it's my Thursday. But you know,
What about your Thursday?
like, no, I mean, I haven't been great all weekend, and you're having to hit 1,000 calories, and I go this week. I would never be. See, that was not no good on it. That was nothing. I actually got in a blink. I didn't crave for more, but I'm just like, I've had 400 calories there.
So I would look at, remember we were saying there about slowly increasing. If you're only hitting 15, 1600, I would try and keep it there for a week just to make sure that we don't get a massive spike. And then when we start to increase it, if your appetite still hasn't caught up, then we're going to look at adding liquid calories in. So something really simple, like, you know, maybe you do have a coffee with a bit of something in it, or yeah.
My diet's good. Do you know,
Yeah.
and that's probably why, like,
Or if you're in here, maybe I get you to have it. You know, I always talk about this a lot. Maybe I asked you to have a Lucozade Sport or something, because that Lucozade Sport is 140 calories, it's 30 grams of carbs, right? You won't really feel it because it's like taking in water during your training session, and you might notice you're like, oh, I feel better here, I feel stronger.
Megan got me to take the original Lucozade while I was coming back to training, and that was good. And then I got these gels,
Yeah.
because I just like so I get a good gel today, just to try and get carbs in.
Yeah. So something that is not too taxing on the digestive system, where you feel like, oh, I'm sitting here, like you're going, I'm not hungry, and I'm eating, and I'm like, oh, I feel bloated, and I don't want to eat, and then I've got stuff on, I'm like, oh, I just want to leave, or I don't want to eat. So that would be my first protocol, but balancing those calories, just keep them consistent, and then we'll just find, like, see, when I ask people to eat more, I know what they're thinking in their head. They're like, I can't cook more, like I can't have another meal. Sometimes it's just a case of going, what are you having for breakfast? Add a small teaspoon of peanut butter. Is that it? That's all you want me to do every day? Yeah. Oh, see, for your lunch, just have an apple. What? That's all you want me to do? Yeah. Or could you cook with normal oil and not fry light? That's all you want me to do? Yeah. So it doesn't have to be big changes. It could just be really, really simple. And again, what we were talking about there with fatigue, obviously health condition, what I'd be looking at, and I've spoken to you about this before, is gut health. Because your gut health is your second brain, and it's not going to cure, but it's going to help you manage that better. And so when I was saying there about the stuff like super greens, omegas, if you can put your body in a far healthier place, because anytime I've worked with anybody with an autoimmune condition, when we manage that inflammation, it tends to settle a bit. You manage it a lot better and you're less likely to have flare-ups. Now obviously you can have stress-related stuff, but for the most part you can manage it. So I'll send you through some of the stuff on that there to do. Macros, boys, I'll send you out the macro book because in terms of this, like I said to you, it's relevant. It's relevant to what you want to do. It's relevant, do you want to build muscle? Do you want to lose body fat? Do you want to do both? But obviously if you focus on one thing, you tend to get that quicker than trying to focus on two. If you don't have enough vitamins and minerals in your diet, you will have a deficiency, which can cause, what I was talking about later in life, you're still quite young, but like chronic fatigue, lack of energy, lack of mojo, all these things. So making sure, if I was to look at your diet, Cathal, and go, right, you're not getting enough fiber, you're not getting enough vitamin D, you're not getting enough of this, we can just turn around and go, all you need to do to make sure that you're performing as optimal is add those in, and what I would be looking to do with you is push your calories as high as possible. Not get you fat, but basically how much can you get away with eating? Do you know what I mean? If you turn around and say, imagine you have the keys to a Ferrari and you're only filling the tank a quarter bit. What if we filled the tank? You know, how much more could you get out of yourself? The same yourself, Brenda. So even though you have a routine, you like eating a certain way and you're like, I have my patterns and it works for you and you get through your sessions and you do well, could we make them better? You know, could we push the envelope and go, I want you to eat more carbs, here's what it's going to look like, here's what I want you to add in. And again, that energy is going to come from food. Now, when we look back at that triage of health, performance, body composition, sorry, I'll not keep it too long, guys. If you don't focus on health, you can struggle with this because your body will not take that energy in and utilize it. It's just like, this is more stress for me, okay? And then health related, depending on the condition, obviously we're looking at, is it an autoimmune condition? Is it something that we can manage? Is it a chronic illness? Because I go back to this, what we were talking about there, your gut is your second brain. And unless, and I joke about this, unless you're suppositing things up your bum, right? Everything is coming through your digestive system or it's coming through your skin, right? And if it's coming through your digestive system, you have control over that, right? The problem is we just eat and drink and do these things and we don't really think of the consequence. And how it shows up in our body is different, a bit like perimenopause. Somebody may break out in eczema or psoriasis. Maybe somebody just gets like brain fog. Maybe somebody gets achy joints. Maybe another person gets diarrhea, right? Maybe somebody just is a wee bit more gassy, but they just brush it off and go, no, it's just normal. I remember saying to someone like, when I cut out dairy, because I thought dairy was playing up with me, I was like, I never really farted. And someone looked at me and they were like, I mean, no, everybody farts. I was like, no, I had less digestive issues. I'm not saying that that's like, there's something wrong with you. But it was like, I feel better. Do you know what I mean? I was less bloated. I felt, you know, good. And here's the thing. If you're eating foods that don't agree with you, that creates inflammation. That's going to cause more water retention. That's going to make it more difficult for you to lose weight. or build muscle. So it's important that we are looking, and that's why it always starts off with 80% of food is good quality single ingredient food. Because we improve that, the body tends to look after itself for the most part. And autoimmune condition is complete opposite of that, where it's like it's attacking itself. But for the most part, like if we feed it the right stuff and play with it the right way, it'll tend to work in your favor. Any other questions?
Can you just send me the list of supplements?
Yeah, cool. Yeah. I know I was a bit of a curveball because I wanted to talk about that, and then all the questions I knew, I was like, I'll probably get some basic stuff. In terms of the meal prep, we have recipe guides, we have meal plans, we have different things. Like, I would say use the sample meal plans that we can give you, because it'll give you a routine and structure to start, but it's not the be all and end all.
I still make the Thai pork burgers, like that is on rotation on the house. Yeah,
Yep. It's advanced now that
so good.
we have air fryer recipes because everybody has an air fryer. Yes, I'll send you them over. Yes. Bored of lunch, I have him stocked out. Cheeseburger pasta is one that we got from Board of Lunch. It's so good. Oh, so good. Yeah. Yeah. And it's all just done in a slow cooker. Yeah.
I don't think I ever got them.
And then the air fryer ones are just handy. Cool. Folks, thank you.